Hi. Okay, so in December, we made these jigs, and they are just made out of chipboard, and they're going to be spacers for us. And we have a 1 layer, a 2 layer, and a 3 layer. I'm going to keep my 3 layer out because that's the one that I'm going to be using. I also have my rulers. I have not only the small OmniGrid, but I also have my larger OmniGrid to cut. And I have my bone folder and a pencil. When we cut these, you can use a self-healing mat with a rotary blade, or you can use a guillotine, and I'm going to use my guillotine. So we're going to go ahead and make this accordion album, which opens, and I've shown this to you in December, but it opens on one side, and then as soon as you're at the back, you can open it on the other side. So basically what it is, it's just a bunch of these little chipboards put together to make a book. And so in order to do this, I think we need, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of 8.5 by 11 chipboard. I'm going to put this to the side for now, and I'm going to go ahead and get my chipboard. I'm going to give you some of the measurements. All of them are going to be 4.5 inches wide this way. So the way I cut mine is, I'm going to make my 4.5 inches this way. And I can get 2 out of a sheet. And then we will go ahead, all of them are going to be 4.5 inches. And then we're going to go ahead and cut the various lengths. And they start at 8.5, 8, 7.5, 7, 6, and so forth. So let's go ahead and let me get that out of the way because I won't be able to measure. And let's go ahead and start putting our lines on, at least for the 4.5 inch area. And I'm using my OmniGrid because it gives me lines going both ways so I can make it pretty square. So there's a 4.5, and then I'm going to flip it, and I do the factory edges first because they should, in theory, be very square. Okay, so the first set that we're going to do is 8.5 and 8 inches. So this first one will already be 8.5 because we have an 11 by 8.5 sheet. So this one we won't need to cut. But the second one, we're going to have to make it 8 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to cut these first, and then we're going to make a 1/2 inch mark on one side of each of these. So let me get my guillotine. And I'm going to do the 8.5 inch first. Be very careful with the guillotine. The knife is very sharp. It does get dull over time with all of the use that we put into it. And I've already talked about getting something that is self-sharpening for doing my chipboard. And I'm going to take that 1/2 inch off so that we have an 8.5 and an 8 inch tall. Okay, so you may want to go ahead and mark these so that you know. My pencil is not cool. So I'm going to mark 8 and 8.5. So the other thing that we're going to do on each of these, and I'm going to show you on these two first, is I'm going to go ahead and mark a 1/2 inch down on one side. There's my pencil. So I go ahead and make my tick mark there. And then I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch on this side also. Now, what we want to do with that is, you can see these slope. And so we're going to take a 1/2 inch off each side. I'm going to start with this one. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my tick mark on my cut place, but I'm also going to put my corner. So I'm going to put a corner on one edge, and then I'm going to put the tick mark so that when I cut it, that did not go as planned. There we go. I am not happy. That is really getting chewed up. So let me try it a different way. The last one worked just perfectly, so I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to put the tick mark up there, and I'm going to put my corner down here. There we go. So what you're going to have is this is going to be slanted, and I'm going to try and do that on this one, see if I can redeem this piece before I throw it in my scrap bin. And so I put that there, and I'm going to put that there. Okay, I have no clue why it's being so naughty, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fix this with my scissors, which is not ideal, but needs must. Okay, and later I will go ahead and take my my sandpaper and sand that down just a little bit too. Okay, so when we go ahead and get ready to glue these together, let me sand this off and make it just there we go. And you might have to do this on all of your pieces. It's a little bit futzy. I don't know if doing it with the self-healing mat would work a little better. You can try that. Okay, anyway, what we have is we have angles, and we're going to start with the corner. Okay, this is my larger one. We're going to start with the corner, and this was 8 inches, and this is smaller. So we're going to attach these two together, and I will show you how to do that later. So these are our 8-inch ones. Let's go ahead and do 7-inch ones, and then 6, and then 5. So I'm going to do my 4.5 width, first of all. And you'll do this with we will have 6 of these, did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll have 8 of these, sorry. And since we have our 8s and 7, 8.5 and 8, we want to do 7 and 7.5. So one of these I am going to mark at 7.5. And the other side I'm going to mark at 7 inches. Now I'm wondering, I might go ahead before I cut these. Let's try something. let's experiment. Okay, let's go ahead and cut our 4.5s first. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my smaller ruler and I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch. Now we already have this marked. This is a 7 inch. I'm going to go ahead and mark a 1/2 inch below that here. So let's try that. Let's go ahead and line this up. And what I'm doing is I'm lining it up on my 1/2 inch mark down and then on the corner of this. And so, see if that helps me. And I know some, yeah, that was great. Some of this is because my guillotine knife is getting... Okay, so you've seen me do, my camera stops in the middle and I can't keep it going. I don't know what's going on with it. Anyway, I don't know if I bump it or if the guillotine might be doing it. But what we've done, you've seen, we've done the set of 8s, which is 8.5 to 8, 8 to 7.5. Okay, and then we've done our 7s, which is 7.5 to 7, 7 to 6.5. And so then I also did, I measured them the exact same way. And we have 6.5 at the top to 6, 6 to 5.5, and then 5.5 to 5, 5 to 4.5. So you will need to cut those, and of course they're all 4.5 inches wide, so that you have them going stair steps up like this. And they go up, up, up. So you should have them layered to look something like that. I don't know if you're catching that. Okay, so once you have all of these cut, then we're going to go ahead and start putting them together. And I would suggest that you lay them out like I have with the largest one, the 8.5, at your left-hand side. And so that means when you get down to your, what is that, 4.5 inches? Yeah, 4.5 inches. Then that one is also at the left-hand side. So the smallest and then the largest, and have them stair step down. Lay them to your side, and you have a choice. If you're going to use the pretty papers that we've been working with, you can cut all of your strips out of your pretty paper, but I'm going to go ahead and do something different this time. When you look at this, you can see I've used the colored papers for my strips to connect these. These are all colored papers that I've used, but I'm going to go ahead and use black this time. And so most of my black papers are 1 inch wide, and I would like these to be at least 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to get out my cut and scoreboard, and I'm going to cut strips, and actually I'm going to start cutting with the 11 side up, but I'm going to cut at 1.5 inches on my black. So if you're using a colored paper, you'll do the same thing. You will cut them 1.5 inches wide. And we're going to need quite a few of these. You don't have to cut them all at one time. I'm probably not going to get all of them out of just one piece for sure. But I'm going to cut as many as I can from this one sheet first to start. And then I'm going to show you how to glue these together. I don't understand why my camera would turn off like that, but I just have a feeling that the pounding of it takes a lot of pressure to get that guillotine to cut. I have a feeling that that jarred something in my camera and made it turn off. So I do apologize. I thought I was doing the whole video showing you how to cut each separate one. But if you have the measurements, you'll be okay. And basically, these are the measurements. You need one that's 8.5 inches tall, one that's 8 inches tall, 7.5 inches tall, 7 inches tall, 6.5 inches tall, 6 inches tall, 5.5 inches tall, and 5 inches tall. And then off of one side of, and they all have to be 4.5 inches wide, but off of one side of each of these, you're going to take 1/2 inch off and make them kind of go down at an angle. So I hope that's okay. I hope you guys can. If I showed you 4 of them. I know we've got through 4. I'm hoping that will be enough to get you through all of them. Okay, so we've gone ahead and we've cut these. Now the other thing that you can do is you can go ahead and score these in the middle. And since it's 1.5 inches, that would be 3/4 of an inch. I'm not as worried about that as I am about the spacing. So I'm going to show you how we need to do the spacing. And I'm going to start with the smallest set. And actually, okay, we're going to flip these. I want to flip the 8.5 so that the big side is on my right. The 8, 7.5, 7, 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5. So we have the 8.5 at the top right. I'm sorry, I told you the other way, but we're going to do it this way because then it won't confuse us so much, because it's going to open like this. So I'm going to set that aside, and what I want to do is I want to pull those first 2, and that would be the 4.5 to 5, and then the 5 to 5.5, and I want my connector to go on the left-hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up first of all, and what you can see is they kind of go straight in line if you've cut them fairly nicely. So I am going to go ahead and fold this, and let's get our jig that has the 3 on it. It's a little bit more than 1 1/8. And on the smaller piece on the left-hand side, I'm going to glue this, and I'm actually going to make the bottom even, and then the top we will cut later, and I will show you how to do that. So for me, in order to put the glue exactly where I need it, I'm missing a pencil. Okay. For me to put it exactly where I need it, I'm going to go ahead and put the chipboard exactly at the bottom of my cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and mark these pretty much like that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is on the smaller side, I'm going to put my glue. So let's go ahead and put our glue on the small side. And I want to make sure that I have the smaller, okay, the smallest piece with the larger side on your left-hand side. You want to go ahead and make sure that you put that on the outside of here. So I am going to do that. And I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to run that there. So the next thing I want to do is I actually want to put my jig right in the middle there. And if it helps you to draw a line, go ahead and draw a line to show you where you want your glue to be. So if you can see, I have a line. Yeah, you can barely see it. I'm going to put my glue on this side of the line so I don't put any in the middle. And I'm going to put my glue as close to that line as I can. Now we want these to be going completely up. I'm going to put my jig in there, and I'm going to make them equal on the bottom. My bottom's going to be flush. This is going to be right in the middle. And I'm going to push that down really well with my hand, first of all, and then I'm going to go ahead and take my bone folder and push that. And then I will cut the excess paper off. Let's try and get some of this glue out of here. First of all, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to cut as close to my chipboard as I can. And there you have it. So when you close it, that little bit of paper that you have right here, it's going to give you a little bit of a give so that it's not completely on top of each other. And you could actually take your second piece and make a more defined corner if you like, so that you have sort of an edge here. If you're using pretty paper, it really does do a nice job. It looks great, but I also like the black, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. So the second one we want to do is we want to go ahead and open that up. We want to take, that's not going to be big enough, so I'm going to push it over. I'm going to take my second piece, and I'm going to go ahead and put this, actually I am going to score this. It makes it just a little bit easier if they're scored. So I'm going to score this at 3/4 of an inch between my 1 1/2 and my beginning. So there we go, that one's scored. Okay, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to put these all on the outside as we open it this way. So I want to put mine here on this one. So basically what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to lay this on that side. I'm going to take my next one and I'm going to put it, make them even at the bottom here, and then push them together. Draw your line. Okay, this is the next one we'll be working with. So I'm going to go ahead and glue, put glue, and now I'm doing it, you're always going to put your glue first on the small side of your line. So I'm going to put it on this side of my line. And then I want to go ahead and lay this, and you can see I have the smallest side on my right side and the larger side on my left side. So I want to go ahead and lay that on there, and I'm going to push it right into the corner where my score line is. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and burnish it again. Flip it back. And this is where we're going to use our little jig, and I'm going to push my jig up against this piece, and then I'm going to draw myself a line. And that's just telling me where I can put the glue without overlapping. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glue, and I don't know if you can see that. See, I drew a line. Can you see that? Ooh. Anyway, I did draw a line on the side of my jig. And let's go ahead and put our glue as close without going over that line as we can. Okay, now we have to be very careful because we want them to all be going up in an angle. So you want to make sure that you have the shorter side of this one. Put your jig in there, push it as close to this last piece that way as you can. Put this in while getting it straight at your bottom. And you can see my bottoms are all going straight. So I'm going to push, 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 push. Then I'm going to flip it and burnish it with my nice little bone folder. And now we can cut. And I'm going to take, what I do is I'm going to take the excess glue off first. And now I'm going to cut. Okay, so we have 2 of them. Now again, because we've only scored the one side that we pushed against here, you can take this last one and use your table to make your line. And so you have kind of a nice little edge right there. Makes it just really nice. Okay, so, and you can kind of see we have one on this side, our connecting paper on this side, and we have one on this side. So the next one that we want to do will go on this side because we want them to be on the outside. You can see this is going to be an outside, this is going to be an outside, this is going to be an outside. So I'm going to get another piece of paper. I'm going to score it. You could have scored this all at one time. I'm not terribly fussy about that. It gives you a chance to catch up to me if you're behind, or to think about what you're doing and plan what your next move is. Okay. Put that down. I'm going to go ahead and fold my paper. And I want to make sure that on my fold I'm going out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this way. And what I'm going to do is, actually, let's flip it because that'll make it easier. Let's flip it and let's put our paper under it. Okay. And then let's go ahead and get the next piece. Make sure that your bottoms are in line, and then mark this. These are guides to help you know what you're doing, where you're going. And then I'm going to go ahead and put glue just on the shorter, wherever my short line is. Can you see my line there? It goes up like that from this side to up there. I'm going to put my glue on that line and then down my crease, across my bottom and up. And then I'll fill in. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my bottoms match. I'm going to push this into the corner. Oops, it went out. There we go. And I'm going to push. I will flip it, burnish it, and flip it back. So again, the next thing you want to do is get your little jig, push it up against this side. You want to push it up towards this one, and I'm going to mark it. Now you might have to move it so that you can get it the whole way up there. Okay, so I'm hoping you can, yeah, you can see that. So I'm going to put my glue right almost as close to the line as I can get it on my right hand side, and then up and across that line. So we know that this is the next piece, and I'm going to put my jig in there to make sure that I don't get it too close. I'm going to line up my bottom. Yep, goes nicely. I'm going to take that extra glue off, flip it again, burnish it, And we're going to cut that excess off. Okay, so you should have a book that the small one goes up this way. And again, because we have only scored on one side, I'm going to push my page down and then just lift it up against my table to make that nice crease. You can always use your bone folder to kind of crease it extra if you like. There we go. That made a nice little crease. Okay, so we have that many pages. I'm going to take a little break and I will be back to show you how to put the rest of them on. Stay tuned. Okay, so doorbell rang, had to get something packaged. So what we're going to go ahead and do is get the next set of cards, and we want this one, and it is going to get attached here on this side. So we're putting all of our strips on the outside, so I've gone ahead and scored this one. I'm going to push it down, and I want to glue to this side. So I'm going to flip it. It's just easier for me if I push them under like this. Okay, so I want to go ahead and mark this as high. There's my pencil. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the shorter side of my line. And my glue is stuck. So sometimes if you just run your needle up and down through that hole, it'll open it up for you. There it goes. And so then I'm going to go ahead and push this in here, try and get my bottom even here, and then I just push it up to my fold. I'm going to go ahead and burnish that down. Okay, and then I'm going to use my little jig and draw a line so that I know where to put my, oops, so I know where to put my glue. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Maybe not. Oh, there. So I have a line. I'm going to put the glue on the other side, this side. And you want to make sure that these are going up. So I'm going to open that out so it lays flatter. And I'm getting it not exactly on that drawn line, but just a little bit to my right of it. Okay, and then I'm going to put this in here so that I don't get it too, and I'm going to push it this way so that it does kind of, and I want to make sure that the bottom is lined up. And you'll see me run this through that little channel to make sure that it's spaced well. So let's go ahead and burnish this down nicely. I have some glue that got over the edge. And then the only thing we have to do is cut off the excess. Now you've probably noticed when you cut this, it doesn't cut exactly straight across, because if this were pushed up to this side, if this piece of chipboard were pushed up to this piece of chipboard, it would cut perfectly. But because we have given it a little bit of space, we have a little bit of a dip. And so you just kind of work around that. That's not a big deal. Okay, so we have another one on, and that's just a little bit messy. I'm going to clean that up just a little bit. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have a score line on this side. We don't have a score line on this side, so I'm going to use the board. What I do is I push down and then lift it up while it's still pushing against the table, so that I can make kind of a nice little edge there. Yeah, and I'm going to sharpen that up a little bit with the edge, and that looks, see, now we got it. Okay, so the next one we want to do is on the outside. We want to do this one. So I'm going to get another one. Go ahead and score these. I have this one scored. I'm going to put my glue, my pin in my glue, so it doesn't dry out. Art glitter really is a little bit sensitive, but I like it. Okay, so I'm going to flip it one more time. I know that I want it to glue to this side, so I'm going to flip it. And this is just personal preference. If you like gluing upside down, right side up, however you like it, go ahead and do it. It's not a big deal. And I'm going to get my next piece, and you always want them to be going up. So I'm going to draw my line. That's where my glue ends. I'm going to move that one for now. I'm going to put my glue on here. And that's what I'm saying. I'll try and show you. I glue better this way because I have better control over my paper. I know exactly where my edges are. But some people like to glue this way with the cardstock on the bottom. But see, I can actually see better where my glue is, so that's why I do it this way. But it's a personal preference. You do whatever is easiest for you. Okay, I'm going to push that down. Now I'm going to flip it and burnish it. And I'm going to flip it again. And I did get a little glue in here, so I always use this little thing to remove whatever excess glue I have put in here. Okay, so I'm going to use my little jig, and I'm going to push it towards my piece of chipboard, draw my line, because this again is where my glue goes. Okay. And I'm going to put the glue as close to my edges as I can without going over. Take it down. And then remember, you're always going up. So I'm going to try and put this as, use your little jig, it helps. I'm going to try and put this as close to the bottom to make it as square as I can. Okay. I'm going to push it, flip it, burnish it, and then cut. Now you guys should be old hands at this by now. I bet you're getting so good. So I'm going to cut this. There we go. And again, this side, when we score it, we only have one side scored. So this side is completely glued and scored, but this side of our channel is not. So I always push my chipboard down to my table and then just slowly raise it up so that the edge of it is pushing against the table, just to make myself a nice little edge. And then I'm going to burnish it to make sure it's nice and crisp. Yep, there we go. And we have another one done. So now we know that this will be the outside. So I'm going to open this up. This is my outside. And we only have 2 more books pages to put on there, guys. Okay, so we want this to be glued. So for me, I go ahead and flip it, knowing that my cardstock goes under there. And I will get my next piece. And for now, before I put glue on it, I just go ahead and butt it up there, draw my line, because that's where my glue is going to be. Okay. And then we'll put our glue right under that little line. We only do half up to our fold. And then I'm going to push this under. I try to get my bottoms kind of straight, and I only push it up to the fold. So then I flip it and burnish it. Flip it back. For me, this works. You guys do you. If you find an easier way for you, then do it. And I'm going to go ahead and mark this so that I know where my glue, exactly where to put my glue. And then I put my glue on the right-hand side of that line, just inside that line, up to this line. So then I'm going to use my jig again to keep the spacing. You always make sure that your edges are pretty even. Run your jig through that channel, push. Oh, and I got a little bit of glue, too much glue, so I'm going to clean that off so that it doesn't make things stick that shouldn't. I'm going to flip it and burnish it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off that excess paper. Okay. See, so all of our little cardboard, or cardstock is on the outside of these. So the next one is going to be this one. We want the cardboard to be on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this and burnish it. And this should be, you should have had 4 pieces out of an 8.5 by 11. And this should fit just about perfectly here. But you also want to make sure it fits on here. Yep. Okay, so let me think again. Yeah, we want the paper to be glued here. So I'm going to flip it, knowing that my paper goes under. I'm going to put my paper under there and put this one next to it. And again, make sure they're going up. I'm going to mark it for my glue placement. Oops, I just broke my pencil. Pushed too hard. Okay. And so then we put the glue on the small side because it's going up this way. This is our small side. And just on the right-hand side of the fold, I'm putting the glue. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and place this. And I want it to be, there we go. I always try to make my bottoms pretty close, square as I can get them. Flip it and burnish. Flip it back. Use your little jig. And if you have to, turn it around this way. Oh, and I have too much glue there. So I'm going to go ahead and push this up against my other piece of cardstock, mark it, so I know where my glue placement is. I want to check that. Yep. Okay, so I know to go ahead and put my glue on the inside of this piece. And I will use my jig. Oops. I want the top going to the top, and I'm putting this as close to the bottom to make it square. Flip it, burnish it, and then cut off your excess. So, you guys have made an accordion book. And isn't that is so cute. There you go. Oh, and I'm going to go ahead and fix this edge. Push down, push in, push over. And there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and take my bone folder across that edge to kind of stiffen it up a little bit. And there we have it. Oh my goodness. So we've made our little album, our accordion album, and in our next lesson we're going to go ahead and start decorating this. At least we'll try and get some of this side, and then we'll probably have to take another video to work on this side. I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been a lot of fun. I really like this. I'll see you back next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.